In the bustling city where skyscrapers touched the clouds and the wealthy ruled from glass towers, lived Alexander Grant, a man everyone knew by reputation, a ruthless, sharp, impossibly successful millionaire who owned one of the largest investment firms in the country, but who carried in his heart a darkness and emptiness no fortune could cure. His mansion on the hill stood as a symbol of perfection from the outside, yet behind the guarded gates, a war of loneliness and unspoken pain brewed. Daily, especially for his 4-year-old twins, Emma and Ethan, who had lost their mother during childbirth and never knew the warmth of a mother's touch, growing up instead under the scrutiny of a father who loved them in silence but did not know how to express it. Alexander was known not only for his fierce business decisions but also for his cruelty at home. He had hired and fired more nannies than one could count, some dismissed for the smallest mistakes, others for daring to show more affection than he approved of, some lasted a day, others a week, but none stayed long enough to become a presence in the children's lives. The twins, though adorable with their golden curls and bright blue eyes, had grown weary of strangers coming and going, each time attaching themselves briefly only to have them ripped away, leaving their little hearts more confused and fragile. To Alexander, emotions were weaknesses. He had learned from his own father that love made men vulnerable, so he replaced affection with rules, attention with gifts, and presence with absence. But fate, it seemed, had written a twist in his otherwise controlled life, for on one rainy afternoon, a woman named Isabella walked into his mansion for an interview that neither of them would ever forget. Isabella was unlike the polished, resume-perfect nannies that had come before her. She was warm, kind, carrying an air of gentleness that could not be faked, her brown hair tied in a simple bun, her dress modest yet neat, her eyes filled with a quiet strength as though life had thrown her storms but she had learned to dance in the rain. When she met the twins for the first time, Alexander watched from a distance, expecting the usual awkwardness and fear, but instead, Emma ran straight into Isabella's arms, giggling, while Ethan shyly peeked from behind her legs until Isabella knelt down, looked him in the eyes, and spoke to him as though she had known him forever. Within minutes, laughter filled the room, a sound Alexander hadn't heard in his house in years. Something in him tightened, almost painfully, as he watched his children's faces light up in a way he had never been able to bring out. Still, his pride refused to acknowledge the stirring in his chest, and so he hardened his face, interviewing Isabella with cold, calculated questions meant to scare her off. But Isabella didn't flinch. She answered with honesty, with warmth, and with an authenticity that unsettled him. Against his better judgment, he hired her, telling himself it was temporary, that she too would fail like all the rest, and he would fire her soon. Days turned into weeks, and weeks into months, and for the first time, the mansion that had been filled with silence began to echo with laughter, bedtime stories, songs, and the soothing presence of someone who cared not because of money, but because of love. Alexander pretended not to notice, burying himself in his work, but every night when he returned, he would find his twins asleep peacefully in Isabella's arms, or hear them whispering, "Good night, Mama," without realizing it. The first time the words slipped from their lips, Alexander froze, his breath caught in his throat, his hands trembling at his sides. He should have corrected them, should have fired her immediately for crossing boundaries, but he couldn't, because deep inside, that word didn't feel like a mistake. Instead, it pierced the walls he had built around his heart, forcing him to confront the truth he had buried. His children had found in Isabella what he had denied them all along, and what terrified him most was that he too had begun to feel something he swore he never would. What would happen when love threatened to dismantle everything he believed made him strong? What would happen when Isabella's presence forced him to face the man he had become? Stay tuned for Chapter 2, because the storm in Alexander's life is only just beginning, and the choices he makes next will change not only his future but that of his children forever. And if you want to discover how love can break even the coldest hearts, don't forget to hit that subscribe button right now, because the next chapter will leave you speechless.